Tonight, Israel promises to stand alone after the U.S. threatens to withhold weapons.
Major military operation in Rafah would further weaken Israel's standing in the world.
An ultimatum from the White House met with anger and continued strikes on Rafah as ceasefire talks stall. CBC News is in the region. And we're inside the New York courtroom as Stormy Daniels takes the stand again. The combative cross-examination and Donald Trump's reaction. And airline passengers with disabilities take their horror stories to Parliament Hill.
They smack your head into the overhead bins.
My experience is usually riddled with anxiety.
Will a new commitment actually make a difference?
From CBC News, this is The National with Chief Correspondent Adrian Arsenault.
Thanks for joining us. Well, tonight, Israel says if it needs to stand alone, it will stand alone. That message of defiance after the U.S. president threatened to freeze the shipment of key weapons. The rift between Israel and its most important ally, the U.S., has rarely been this wide or this public, all over the fate of the city of Rafah, home to Hamas militants, but also more than 1 million civilians, some already running again for safety. Chris Brown is in Jerusalem for us again tonight. Chris?
Well, Adrian, there seems to be nothing left to hold back a Rafah offensive.
In Rafah, an awful new phase of the war in Gaza may be at hand, with these overnight missile strikes part of the opening salvos. The weariness on young Mohammed Khalil Abu Khanes's face captured the horror he'd experienced. My friends, they died, he said. We were gathering their body parts and pieces. Israel is facing immense international pressure to stop and not send ground troops into Rafah to attack Hamas militants. The city is crowded with more than 1 million people and is already facing cascading crises from a shortage of food, fuel, and housing. But in a video released Thursday night, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu struck a defiant tone. If we need to stand alone, we will stand alone. We will fight with our fingernails, he said in an apparent rebuke to U.S. President Joe Biden, who cut off some shipments of large bombs to Israel and who said he'd stop more if Israel went ahead with the major operation in Rafah.
I'm not supplying the weapons that have been used historically to deal with Rafah, to deal with the cities, to deal with that problem.
Everybody now understands the depth of the rift between Israel and the U.S.
Iran Etzion, a former security advisor to Israeli governments, said Israel's military can make do without the weapon shipments for now, but Biden's public rebuke is unprecedented.
And what the Americans are trying to do is to demonstrate to the Israeli public their government is not representing their interests, and their government is actually working against their interests.
But any hope the U.S. action might provoke a sudden change of Israeli strategy quickly faded as negotiators left Cairo without a deal to free Israeli hostages and Palestinian prisoners and suspend the fighting. Hundreds of hostage families and their supporters protested in Tel Aviv, calling for their release. The humanitarian situation in Gaza, meanwhile, is precarious. Israel released video of what it said was aid moving again through one of the 2 border crossings it had closed earlier in the week. But in Gaza, aid officials say almost nothing is getting through, and at best, Rafah has a day or 2 of food and fuel left.
Chris, we're also hearing other American officials trying to underscore arms to Israel haven't stopped. They're still coming through with all kinds of weapons.
Very much so. Huge bombs that can crush multiple high-rises in one blow may be out for now, but tank rounds, mortars, tactical vehicles, those have not been stopped, and White House officials said armaments for the Iron Dome anti-missile shield, those are also not affected. IDF spokesman Daniel Hagari indicated that this move will also not affect Israel's plans for Rafah, as he said they have enough weapons on hand to complete the mission. Adrian.
All right, Chris Brown in Jerusalem. Thank you. In Ottawa, a parliamentary committee studying anti-Semitism on Canadian university campuses heard directly from Jewish students about their experiences.
Have you heard people celebrate October 7th and celebrate Hamas? I will never forget hearing on October 8th the chant, "There are no civilians."
Students spoke about facing harassment and threats and hiding signs of their Jewish identity out of fear, and said both the government and university administrations had not done enough to protect them. Now to the new pivotal testimony at Donald Trump's hush money trial. Stormy Daniels faced cross-examination for hours as Trump's lawyers tried to pick apart her story. Chris Reyes was in court as it all unfolded.
After 2 intense days on the stand, Stormy Daniels ended her testimony, leaving behind a trail of salacious details about her alleged sexual encounter with Donald Trump back in 2007. During a fiery cross-examination, Trump's defense team went on the attack, picking apart all those details and using them against Daniels. Susan Necklace pressed the former adult film star on why she gave interviews, for example, about having dinner with Trump before the sexual encounter, when she also claimed they didn't eat at all.
I think Susan Necklace did an outstanding job undermining the credibility of the witness, undermining the veracity of the story that she told. To me, that's cross-examination 101, and I think it was absolutely essential.
Your words don't mean what you say, do they? Necklace said, adding at one point, details of your story keep changing. My story is the same, Daniels fought back.
The level of detail that she went into is a hallmark of credibility, right? I'm telling a story that actually happened because I'm able to provide all these details.
On the stand, Daniels was at times curt, other times casual.
Stormy Daniels brings her
on making money using her story about Trump, like this show she put on back in 2018. She said she was just doing her job. At the end, Necklace brought it back to the 34 charges of falsifying business records against Trump, related to that payment Daniels received just before the 2016 election. You have no personal knowledge about Trump's involvement in that transaction, asked Necklace. And Daniels said, not directly, no.
What is less clear at this point is whether or not Trump himself was personally involved in the falsification scheme, and that's critical for establishing the charges in this indictment. Michael Cohen's testimony will be critical in this regard.
So, Chris, you were in the overflow room today with full view of what was going on in the court. What stood out?
Yeah, front row, Adrienne. This was really the first time I got a good look at Donald Trump's face. And for most of Daniels' testimony, he had his eyes closed. When he opened them, he didn't react much. Sometimes he had a scowl on his face. As for Daniels, she was very animated, sometimes shrugging, even laughing, sometimes sounding sarcastic. Overall, it was pretty tense in there with a shade of strange, and then ended with sparks when Trump's lawyers told the judge this case isn't about sex, called for another mistrial, which the judge denied again.
All right, Chris Reyes in New York, thank you. We can now show you the confession of a Winnipeg serial killer after it was shown as evidence in court. A warning, the video is disturbing, and it includes confirmation the women were targeted because they were Indigenous. Cam McIntosh takes us through what will be a crucial element in this murder trial.
This room is video and audio recorded.
Jeremy Skibicki wore evidence into his own interrogation.
You got a watch there?
Police removing that watch as they read him his rights.
You're under arrest right now for the murder of Rebecca Contois, okay?
Turns out it was Contois' watch, one of the Indigenous women he'd calmly admit hours later to killing.
I killed 4 people, okay? Thank you for your honesty. Do you know their names?
Skibicki is on trial pleading not guilty to 4 first-degree murder charges in the killings of Rebecca Contois, Mercedes Myron, Morgan Harris, and an unidentified woman given the name Mishkode Bishike Ikwe Iban, or Buffalo Woman. Police say she wore this jacket.
What does that look like to you? Oh, that is a human hand right there.
In the video, police confront Skibicki with photos of Contois' partial remains, found in a garbage bin near his apartment. After asking for a priest, he confesses the killings were racially motivated.
This whole thing about racial purity.
He explained he met the women outside homeless shelters, had sex, and killed them in his apartment, thinking their lives were already wasted.
And then that's when I started to kind of view it as kind of like mercy killings, I guess you could say.
He says he threw their dismembered remains in the garbage, timing the killings to the pickup schedule.
I was very overconfident.
remains of Myron and Harris are believed to be in a Winnipeg area landfill. Through the interrogation, Skibicki is strikingly candid. Bruce Pitt-Payne is an expert in police interrogation.
Crown, I'm sure, reveled at the fact that he appeared to be extremely lucid.
Skibicki's lawyers will argue he's not criminally responsible due to a mental disorder. They have yet to present their defense. Cameron McIntosh, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Another suspect in Canada's biggest gold heist is under arrest tonight. Police say he flew to Toronto Pearson Airport earlier this week from India. Last year, 6,600 bars of gold were stolen from the airport. Authorities believe the theft is connected to a cross-border firearms smuggling operation. 2 of the 10 initial suspects are still at large, including a former Air Canada worker who was employed at the time of the theft. After numerous complaints supported by video evidence, Canada's airlines are committing to making flying safer for people with disabilities. Ashley Burke now with what's on offer and the push to make companies pay when things go wrong.
That we feel that will make a huge difference.
Everyone here knows there's a problem.
We need you guys to change things.
Advocates meeting politicians and the airline industry, trying to make travel for people with disabilities more humane.
They smack your head into the overhead bins. I've had individuals, maybe not with enough strength to lift me, drop me on my back on the actual armrest. I've had my limbs twisted to the point of almost breaking, being caught under the aisle chair because my legs haven't been secured in properly. It's horrific.
The summit after multiple CBC News reports, including about Ryan LaChance, who was dropped in the aisle of a plane. A Marketplace hidden camera investigation also shows Air Canada workers struggling to board Alessia DiVirgilio.
Please, guys, please. It's my wheelchair.
This is Maya and Ziv's wheelchair, damaged beyond repair during a flight.
My experience is usually riddled with anxiety and a lot of barriers from the starting of my journey when I'm still at home, needing to declare my disability on an ongoing basis, needing to provide medical forms, needing to constantly feel like I have to be on guard because the authorities have just violated my trust.
We sincerely apologize, and we know that we needed to do better.
The airlines say they've made changes and more are coming.
We want to invest in training and in equipment.
We're in trial runs right now for several new services that we're going to provide to folks, especially who are wheelchair users.
Part of the whole conversation.
Federal ministers promised the industry would simplify medical paperwork and do more to gather data to track their experiences. Some advocates say that sounds like a start, but they want automatic penalties, including if a mobility device like a wheelchair is lost or damaged. Ashley Burke, CBC News, Ottawa.
Now to a CBC News investigation into the recruitment of international students. Tonight, we've newly obtained data that shows a gap between what those students were studying and the jobs Canada needed to fill. Valerie Willette now with what more the numbers reveal.
And seemingly unlimited opportunities for every individual.
Akash Singh believed it all when he graduated from a 2-year business program in 2021. After spending $34,000 on his courses, he's working the same security guard job he found as a student.
I applied in so many companies as an accountant and stuff. I ended up getting nothing.
His study permit, just one of nearly 800,000 issued to business students, driving Canada's record high international enrollment. Permits for these programs have increased more than any other field in the past 5 years. Overall, business programs made up 27% of all permits. Only 6% were for healthcare programs, and just over 1% for trades. Both sectors in desperate need of skilled workers. But schools say international students are needed to fill employment gaps, that colleges supply skilled workers, and it all aligns with the federal government's immigration strategy.
I would characterize it as a mismatch.
This economist says what could have been thousands of skilled workers became cheap labor.
Students are graduating from programs that are not particularly valuable in the labor market, that are not allowing them to get the jobs that will then allow them to transition and become productive.
This education consultant says business programs are also cheaper to run than technical or clinical training.
I don't think it had much to do with the labor market needs. I think what it had to do with was
college's financial needs.
The federal immigration minister called it a boom of fake business degrees.
There's a responsibility of provinces in this to make sure that the programs that they are offering to international students are the ones that fit the job market.
So Valerie, this is really interesting. A lot of numbers here, and I know you and the team have been poring over them. When you step back and look at what you've learned, what's your big takeaway?
Well, Adrienne, the fact that these numbers even exist, that tells us a lot. We now know that Ottawa has known exactly where these permits were going for years. And when we look at this business trend, it's not exactly subtle. We're talking about 5 times more permits over the course of 6 years. When we showed these numbers to experts and economists, they told us it demonstrates a clear lack of oversight.
Really important. Valerie Willette, thank you.
Thank you.
There is a tragic end to a story that made headlines around the world. A girl born on an Air Canada flight to a mother who didn't even know she was pregnant. Now that a publication ban has been lifted, we can tell you that little girl died. Christine East now on those tragic circumstances.
Back in 2015, the birth of Chloe Guan Branch was a sensation. It happened during an Air Canada flight to Tokyo, somewhere over Russia. Her mother, Ada Guan, had no idea she was pregnant, and Chloe arrived, of all days, on Mother's Day.
I could feel something wanting to come out. So that's probably the moment I knew.
Just 3 months later, baby Chloe was taken from her parents. The Children's Aid Society was concerned about the couple fighting. Chloe wasn't returned to her mother until 3 years later. In 2019, they moved to Ottawa to be with Guan's new boyfriend, Justin Cassie Berube. And in May of 2020, Chloe was found dead in her room in a soiled bed. It was 2 months into the pandemic. Her bladder had been ruptured a week earlier, slowly poisoning her. She had vomiting and diarrhea, couldn't walk, and close to the end she was passing out. But there was no visit to a hospital, just online searches about the symptoms. In March, a Superior Court judge found Cassie Berube guilty of causing her death. He'd been hitting Chloe, and in an interview with police, he admitted he didn't want to take her to hospital because her bruises would have raised questions.
If I'm the monster that hurt a little girl, I need to be helped, because I'm the one that caused everything that's happening right now.
Guan testified she didn't press him about going to hospital because she didn't want to make him angry. Cassie Berube had been drinking heavily at the time. His lawyer has asked for a mental health assessment.
The judge will hear sentencing arguments for Cassie Berube on Friday. He faces up to life in prison. His defense lawyer says she and her client have no comment at this time. Christine East, CBC News, Ottawa.
The National Post is reporting tonight that political commentator and columnist Rex Murphy has died at the age of 77. Of course, he was also a longtime contributor to the CBC, including here in the National.
It was a week in which we discovered that Canadian children are in bad shape.
Rex Murphy's caustic wit and deadpan humor is the stuff of Canadian legend.
The situation with Canadian adults is quite different. They're older. Of course, Newfoundland.
A proud native son of Newfoundland, he hosted a series of CBC radio programs from the 1970s on, including Cross Country Checkup. On TV, he turned his wit to reviews and criticism and, of course, opinion pieces.
The worst follow-up since the plague of frogs was followed by the plague of locusts.
His regular column on the National, Point of View, was for years appointment viewing.
I'm Rex Murphy. For the National, I'm Rex Murphy.
He left the CBC in 2015 to continue his career as a columnist and podcaster until his death after a struggle with cancer. And he kept writing right up until this week. The war in Gaza is overshadowing the performances at this year's Eurovision Song Contest.
People walk away but never say goodbye.
The threats and the protests as Israel takes the stage.
I think the organisers are in a tricky position.
Outrage over an iPad commercial.
I watched it and I had like this visceral, gross reaction.
Well, even some celebrities are upset, and a Bieber baby is on the way. We're back in 2. fast-moving tornado touched down in Tennessee, part of a 2-week series of storms that have now killed at least 3 people in the central and southern U.S. The severe weather has left tens of thousands without power. Heavy rain and hail has also prompted flash flood warnings. Peak tornado season isn't expected to be over until early June. Well, Apple is facing some backlash over an ad for its new iPad, but as Anise Dari tells us, the controversy may still be to Apple's advantage.
Maybe Apple wanted to show the new iPad crushing it, replacing everything artistic with the thin device. Eye-popping for some.
I watched it and I had like this visceral, gross reaction to literally destroy art, to say we're better. That is not appealing to artists. I don't know who they thought they were appealing to, but it was not artists.
And celebrities saying the same thing. Actress Justine Bateman tweeting, "Tech and AI means to destroy the arts." And Hugh Grant comparing the ad to the destruction of the human experience. But Apple may not be targeting established artists.
Who we don't see complaining are people who are getting access to this level of joy and creativity for the first time with some of these tools. So you could really make the argument maybe that Apple is just going after a new generation.
Branding experts say Apple may not be hurt by a backlash.
You don't need brands to love you. You just need people to be aware of you and remember you and think of you when they're at the point of choosing to buy something.
The difference is striking. And with no big innovations this time around, Apple may welcome any attention.
Really, we're all still talking about the introduction of a slightly smaller iPad. So despite the controversy, it's working, and it's working really, really well.
Apple didn't respond to phone calls or emails from CBC News, but when he posted the video, the CEO did tweet out, "Just imagine all the things the new iPad will be able to create." And he said, CBC News, Calgary.
As the war in Gaza sees no end, the anger is playing out on the music stage. Europe's massive song contest becomes politically charged. And Rosie's here with that issue. Nice to see you.
Hi, Adrian. Tonight we will look at Ottawa's plans to address foreign interference.
A bill which would give Canada new, modern tools to combat foreign interference.
Will it make a difference before the next election? Chantal, Althea, and Andrew join me to talk about that and a whole lot more.
You can say that again, Justin. Bieber and his wife Hailey announced they are expecting their first child together. They shared the news on their social media pages with a video that also shows them renewing their vows in Hawaii. Congratulations, you two. The Eurovision Song Contest is just days away from crowning a winner, but at the semifinal tonight, thousands of protesters gathered angry over Israel's participation, demanding a ceasefire in the war. Briar Stewart shows us the drama on and off the stage.
Hours before enthusiastic fans streamed into the Eurovision semifinals, another large crowd took to the streets in Malmö, Sweden. Thousands called for a ceasefire in Gaza and for Israel to be banned from the hugely popular singing competition.
Putting on a show like Eurovision is just feels wrong when these things are happening.
Security has been stepped up because the event that sees itself as uniting the world through music has become a flashpoint for protest. 20-year-old Aiden Golan is representing Israel with the ballad called Hurricane. Organizers told Israel to tweak the song, which was originally titled October Rain because it alluded to the October 7th attacks.
I feel like I have such an honor to represent my country, especially in these times.
But during a dress rehearsal, Golan was booed. Eurovision is known for outlandish, over-the-top style, but part of the focus now is on symbols of protest. A Swedish performer was rebuked by the competition for wearing a keffiyeh scarf around his wrist, and the Irish contestant was told to remove the words ceasefire and freedom for Palestine from their face makeup.
I think the organisers are in a tricky position because
Paul Jordan did his PhD on how identity politics play out at the competition.
this is a very charged year, and it is very different in that it's one country that's been singled out. But we've had protests before, when it was in Moscow in 2009.
Then there were protests about the Kremlin's view on gay rights. Since 2022, Russia has been barred from Eurovision. And while some pushed for Israel to be as well, there were mostly cheers for Golan when she took the stage, and she earned enough votes to qualify for this weekend's final. Briar Stewart, CBC News, London.
Now let's break down the week in politics. Rosie's here with that issue.
At issue tonight, new legislation to fight against foreign meddling.
A bill which would give Canada new, modern tools to combat foreign interference.
One tool, a foreign agent registry, but likely not in time for the next election. So what's to be made of this new legislation, and will it actually make a difference? Hi there, I'm Rosemary Barton, here to break it down on At Issue tonight. Hailey Bieber, Andrew Coyne, and Althea Raj. Good to see you all, as usual. Chantal, let's start with you. What do you make of the legislative response to, I think, not only some of the stuff that we saw out of the inquiry, but also to some of the demands that we've seen over the past 12 months?
If you were away for a year, you would have thought we have changed government. Last year at this time, we were all into David Johnston, there's nothing to see here, let's move on, report, and the government going along with it. And this week, it was really interesting to hear Minister Leblanc say that foreign interference had become the greatest threat to our democracy. That certainly didn't happen over the past 12 months. So presumably, the government has suddenly come around to the reality that it needs to address this. I think the legislation is helpful, goes some way to kind of fend off foreign interference. But I also think that the parties, and I mean all parties, are remarkably silent on their own rules for nomination meetings and leadership campaigns. And if I were looking to kind of create a cell within any of the three main parties, I would probably start at the local level by packing nomination meetings. And none of them seem to be interested in talking about that, starting with the Liberals, who have been found to have issues that pertain to foreign influence at the nomination level.
Yeah, and that was part of Justice Ugg's report last Friday, and may indeed be part of her recommendations by the time we get there. But I agree that there doesn't seem to be an opening from the Liberal Party to discuss changing those nomination rules, which are a little bit broader than what everybody else has. Andrew?
Yeah, I'll come back to that, but yeah, sure. She sounds like she's going to recommend something on that, and it'll be interesting to see how the parties respond. But to take up Chantal's point, you know, they're nailing down each of their points of vulnerability. They've been doing this in immigration, on housing, on decriminalization of drugs. And it does sound at times like somebody else was in, not just that there's a new government, but that somebody else was in power over these last little while. So yeah, the thing that was absolutely not something they wanted to talk about until today is now something they want to put up in the shop window. The measures themselves look sound enough. The only beef people are going to have is what took you so long. Other countries have done this long ago. Experts and opposition parties have been calling this for some years in Canada, and now we finally got a foreign agent registry promised not in time for the next election, so the next election will be held under the same old, so to be investigated perhaps some years after that. But to come back to the thing on the party nominations, absolutely. That's one of the clearest things in the preliminary report is this is a mess. This is an open invitation to, I mean, it's long been a scandal. It's been a scandal for decades, but it's usually been a domestic scandal of stacking meetings and all kinds of untoward things going on in both in nomination races and in leadership races. But it goes to another level when essentially you've opened a portal for foreign malign actors to get in and mess around in our politics.
Yeah, I think the other point the Liberal Party would make, certainly, is that they are trying to open up democracy to as many people as possible. But that seems to have left them vulnerable, as Justice Ugg found in the case of Han Dong's writing, at any rate.
Is there anybody, whether they're adults or not, whether they're citizens or not, whether they're members of the party or not, you can take a good thing too far.
Yeah, I'm just going to tell you what they're, that's only telling you what their point is. Yes, Chantal, yes.
No, wait a minute. I've been watching these nomination meetings since 1984. And there's nothing democratic about stacking a room.
Exactly.
Sorry.
Okay.
Whether you're doing it because you're for the anti-abortion movement or for climate change, pick your choices. The easiest way to distort democracy is at the local level by stacking a room. It's not democratic to do that. Jean Chrétien gave himself the power to appoint candidates. Because that was happening. We're talking about 1988, 1980. How many years is that? So no, let's not go for a democratic process.
But I'm saying that what their argument would be is the changes that came in when Justin Trudeau was there was to try and attract more people of different backgrounds into the process. That's what I'm just going to. That's what their line would be. We don't have to believe it.
Sorry for having covered these. They didn't need to do any of this. We're all open to have people of different backgrounds.
Althea.
Well, I think it depends what you mean by stacking, because for some people, stacking a room is just inviting a bunch of your neighbors. Stacking a room is usually meant because you don't like who showed up in the room.
With a bus?
I think, with a bus. I think there is a difference between. I think there's a difference between allowing foreign students who are on a visa to come vote in a nomination race, and possibly asking, 14-year-olds who are Canadian citizens to vote in a nomination race, or even permanent residents, because I don't know how the government can say we're going to ban permanent residents from voting in a nomination race, but we allow them to serve in the Canadian forces. That doesn't make sense to me either. But anyways, the criticisms that I've heard about this legislation, frankly, it was just that it was not ambitious enough, and that a lot of the changes that are being made, one of them deals with a 1951 law that wasn't updated, are long overdue. I'm less worried about the registry not coming into force, because frankly, the registry, whether or not it's enforced for the next election, wouldn't stop the kind of meddling that is alleged to have happened in some ridings across this country. If anybody wants to do something covertly, they wouldn't sign up to a registry. The registry might have helped, the scientists at the Winnipeg lab, for example, but it's not going to prevent foreign interference from happening. But I think, the greatest takeaway from this is, frankly, that there is not that much opposition, because you didn't hear any of the opposition parties kick up a storm. So the government obviously got a balance right, and probably is protecting itself from stuff that will be made public in the weeks and months ahead.
But the fact remains, and this goes to your earlier point, Chantal, that many people will look at this and say, well, what the heck took you so long? Especially because I had been told the legislation was ready back in January.
Well, the foreign registry was promised in 2022.
Yes, but the legislation was also ready to go and didn't come. Yeah, Chantal.
You could ask whatever took you so long about everything in this file, including last year at this time when we were talking about how the government was saying it didn't need a public inquiry, all was sound. I put it down to, I guess, your choice is negligence or incompetence. I guess a mix of both.
Yeah. Last word to you, Andrew, on that.
Well, just to address Althea's point about, the malign actors aren't going to register with the foreign agent registry. The point is that you've got another way of getting them. If they're found to be acting and they haven't registered, then you've got a way of nailing them without having to get into all the other things. It's a bit like nailing Al Capone for tax evasion. It just gives you another route to get at them.
Okay, that was a vigorous debate. We're going to take a short break, but when we return, we'll look at a CBC News investigation examining Pierre Poilievre's relationship with lobbyists. Poilievre has touted himself as a common-sense leader for Canadians who calls lobbyists useless. But do his fundraisers complicate that messaging? That's next. At issue, the corporate lobby. Pierre Poilievre has come down hard on lobbyists.
My experience with the corporate lobbyists in Ottawa, the main groups there, have been that they have been utterly useless.
But dozens of executives and lobbyists have attended high-end fundraising events headlined by Poilievre. So what's to be made of Poilievre's message to corporations to stand against his record of meeting with lobbyists at fundraisers? Let's bring everybody back. Chantal, Andrew, and Althea. I know everyone has lots to say about this. Andrew, you wrote about it, so you get to start. What do you make of the message that he's sending, and then his actions and how his actions line up with that?
Well, I wish lobbyists were totally useless. In my experience, in my observation, all too often they're fully earning their pay. That government policies are all too often framed to make life easier for business rather than forcing them to work for a living. So if there was somebody who came along and said, you know what, we're going to get government out of bed with business and business out of bed with government. We're not going to be providing any more subsidies or special favors to businesses, so fire your lobbyists because we're not going to listen to them. All of that would be great. But that's not what he said. If you actually, listen to his speech or read the piece he wrote for the National Post, he doesn't say I'm going to stop meeting with lobbyists. He doesn't say I'm going to stop giving handouts to business. He doesn't say I'm going to rein in lobbying with any new regulations. And he doesn't say to business, stop playing politics, stop cozying up to parties. He basically says, enlist on my side. First of all, he's saying, I'm not going to bring you any policies unless you, first of all, make them popular with the public. So I'm not going to take any risks or get out in front or, lead. And secondly, he says, if I do bring in any policies you like, I expect, quote unquote, I expect you to get out and sell them for me. So basically, he's conscripting business as marketing agents for conservative policies. That is not quite the tough love, separation of business and state message that I think some people were taking at. It's just simply switching, from business cozying up to the liberals to cozying up to the conservatives.
Though the fact that he's calling them useless and has previously said, I would never spend any time with anyone on Bay Street, and then, we find out he's done 3 or 4 fundraisers on Bay Street. I mean, there is some obvious hypocrisy there that I think would confuse Canadians a little bit in terms of what he's actually trying to defend, Althea.
Well, I think, part of what he's saying there, and Andrew is right on all the points that he made, is he's also trying to muddy the waters, because one of probably the strongest attacks against Mr. Poilievre thus far has been the relationship that he has with his senior advisor, Jenny Burns, who has a lobbying company that lobbies the Ontario government. And so I think he's trying to muddy the waters with that, in the sense that, a pock on all your houses. And we've seen some of the questions in the House of Commons this week attacking the NDP leader's brother. We've heard attacks flying on the Liberal side as well. So I think if he's trying to protect himself by making it seem like everybody else is doing this. I think the very strong stance that he has taken against the lobbying community, or we should say certain groups within the lobbying community, like he has named the Canadian Federation of Independent Businesses, the Canadian Business Council, the Canadian Chamber of Commerce. Almost makes you wonder, is there a conservative waiting in the wing to replace these businesses with their own? Everybody in the advocacy movement would know that if you want politicians to respond to something, you will need to make it easy for them, so you need the people to demand it. I don't think that is new. That's just stating the obvious. I think this was an editorial about capital gains, supposed to be, and he never took a position. He basically told business, go out and sell this policy for me, so it can be easier for me to vote against the government's bill, because the people that I'm courting support from, they are all supportive of this, or many of them are. That's what public opinion polls tell us. So there's just so many different messages at play, and I agree with Andrew's point about it was quite something to say, well, these people are in bed with the Liberals, or not. They were not opponents enough of the Liberal government. Get on my side, lobby basically for me, sell my policies, and then I will be responsive.
Okay, Chantal.
I don't disagree about trying to divorce himself from some inside the bubble, I would say, controversies over lobbying. I don't think that most people anywhere in Canada are worrying about Jenny Byrne and her lobbying ties. But I thought the first goal was to get off the hook on the capital gains tax changes. What the Liberals have done is usually these changes would have been part of a larger budget bill that the Conservatives are set to oppose. They've hived it off so that they are meant to force the Conservatives to vote for or against that specific issue. And I don't think Mr. Poilievre wants to fall into the trap of voting for against this change because it goes against his branding as a common people defender. So he's kind of using this as a step to say, well, you know, if you can't make the case, why should I make the case for you? But that being said, I don't believe a liberal conservative government will do without lobbyists. And I don't believe that the Conservative Party should stop lobbyists from attending fundraisers.
And there's nothing wrong with that, to be clear.
Hypocrisy. Yeah, but you're not going to stand at the door and say, were you a lobbyist? And if so, you can't give me money and come to my dinner. They don't invite people to those fundraising dinners in the sense of you come by invitation only. But I also think that the lobbying industry has had a really good ride from the corporate sector, since we've moved to political financing that excludes big business. Why? Because it makes lobbyists more important to all those lobby groups, because they can't anymore say, we're giving you a big check, give us a hearing, which is probably good, but which is, I think, worked wonders for lobbyists.
It means that they have to go to these things and they have to try and talk to people directly. Andrew?
Well, there's a simpler way to put lobbyists out of business, and that's stop giving out special favors of the kind that lobbyists lobby for. So partly it's a policy question, but I agree with Chantal. This is yet another policy question on which conservatives, you would expect the conservatives to be taking a conservative position. So this on capital gains, on top of the ban on replacement workers, on top of subsidies to electric vehicle battery plants, on each of these, Poilievre has basically ducked and not taken any position, but now he's turning it into a virtue. It just shows how tough I am on business, that I'm going to make business make its own case.
I mean, that could be construed as quite brilliant political tactics, Althea.
Well, just to go back to the relationship between, you know, the fundraisers and the lobbyists, a lot of these lobbyists are former partisans. You know, like they were working for Stephen Harper and now they went for a GR firm or a public relations firm. And like, these are the same people that volunteered during the election to knock on doors and work in the war rooms. So it's basically like you're going to a fundraiser with your friends.
It's grotesque.
But that is the way it works. And I don't know that people outside of this town realize that. The other truth, frankly, is that MPs will continue to go to events. I have been to events this week, and I have seen MPs at events because these are their constituents. And frankly, they want to say hello, and they want to learn about the policy options. And another truth, frankly, is that lobbyists do useful work, because a lot of times the government drafts legislation in a vacuum, and they don't realize the unintended consequences of their actions. And it is lobbyists who work for, or were hired for a certain group of people that say, oh, wait a second, if you do this, this is the impact on my sector.
If it has unintended consequences for Mr. and Mrs. Canada, they're out of luck. If it has unintended consequences for somebody who can pay $10,000 to a lobbyist, then they get a sympathetic hearing.
But it's legal. But it is legal. Let's be clear.
No.
Chantal, last word. Yes, last word.
But sometimes you do bring knowledge to the table if you're a lobbyist that impacts Mr. or Mrs. Canada. And if you don't listen to any of it, you won't know when. And it's up to the politician listening to make that call, whether this was just self-interest or whether there are really, this will have collateral consequences that will amount to collateral damage.
I gotta go. That was another good fiery conversation. Thank you all for that. With that, I'll send things back to Adrian in Toronto.
Ooh, that was spicy. All right, thank you, Rosie. Next, a dramatic rescue of a boy who became critically ill on a cruise.
We were in the middle of the ocean. My son got sick. I was pretty terrified.
How the U.S. Air Force brought him to safety in our moment. What you're looking at here is part of the dramatic rescue of 12-year-old Aiden Bridges, who became seriously ill while on a cruise to the Bahamas with his family. Now, medical staff said he needed to be taken off the ship immediately. That's when the U.S. Air Force came into action. Their operation to get him out safely is our moment.
I was pretty terrified. We were on the cruise from New York to the Bahamas. My son got sick, was feeling really bad, and came to find that he had perforation in his bowel. We were in the middle of the ocean. The next thing was they told us that he needed to be, medevaced off the ship. So they, the doctors and the nurses and all the medical staff there started coordinating with the Coast Guard and the Navy and the Air Force and everybody. There was a big black helicopter. The guys came down, and watching them, hoist my son up into the helicopter was probably the scariest thing that I've ever seen in my life. But after, we made it to North Carolina, to the hospital here, I was very relieved. I can't express it any other way, really, but just to say that I am very grateful that they exist, that their jobs exist, and that they do them very well. They definitely rescued my son. Without them, he wouldn't have survived.
Okay, most important thing is Aiden is going to be fine. It's going to take a while, but he's going to be all right. And the gratitude she expressed is the reason why we have this moment. All the stars aligned in that moment to get that little guy to safety. From all of us at The National, thank you for being with us. You can watch anywhere, anytime on the free CBC News app and subscribe to The National's YouTube channel. I'm Adrienne Arsenault. Take care.